All right, so we back to talk some college football. And before we get into the games, I gotta rip it. We gotta rip into these college football committee rankings that I strongly disagree with a lot of them. Let's start at the top. Let's start with the top five. We've got Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M. It's weird seeing a one-loss Clemson above Ohio State, but at the same time, I can't say it doesn't not make sense, because I think Clemson's a better team and they're 7-1. Their only loss being to Notre Dame, and the only team Ohio State has played is Indiana. I don't think Clemson should be above Ohio State, but I can at least kind of see where the logic is in that one.
Well, for the committee, I think what the committee basically does, they look at how the teams played and who they played and all that jazz. There's gonna be a little interesting this year. Is why so many people were actually looking forward to this, except for me. I completely forgot about it. But many people were very curious to see what the committee was going to think, how people were going to be ranked, and what they were going to think of all the teams that haven't played as many games, or all these teams that played more games. How is that going to be affected for some teams? And well, one of them it didn't really matter for, but
yeah, right.
But Ohio State, I think the only reason Ohio State was really under Clemson was because they had not looked good against Indiana. They had a 35-7 lead against Indiana. Were completely wiping them out, and they completely relinquished that entire lead and almost gave it away to Indiana. Now, don't get me wrong, Indiana's an outstanding team. I mean, Penix put up 491 yards passing in their defense. He absolutely shredded Ohio State apart. He looked unbelievable, and I really like him as a quarterback already. That just proves my point into saying that Penix is much, much better than people think. And the only problem for Indiana in that game, I guess we'll just kind of talk about it a little bit here, but the only problem for Indiana in that game was they could not run the ball whatsoever. They had zero rushing attack. If they had been able to run the ball, I think guaranteed they would have won. If they had been able to run the ball and their offense was a little more two-dimensional rather than just Penix just trying to gash their defense all the time, they would have won the game. But they had -1 yards rushing.
Not good.
Of course, they had 491 yards passing, so that's what kept them in the game. But, I mean, you got to be able to run the football at some point if you want to win the game.
But I can at least see why they did that. I can at least see they probably looked at Clemson and was like, "Hey, their one loss is to Notre Dame," and they probably wouldn't have lost that if they had Trevor Lawrence.
They had Trevor Lawrence and half their defense,
so I can see why. It's weird, but I can see why.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So now 6 through 10, we've got number 6, Florida, 6-1. You got Cincinnati at 8-0. You got Northwestern at 5-0, looking to win their side of the conference probably. This is the one one of the ones I don't really agree with. 2-loss Georgia at number 9 and 7-1 Miami at number 10. So, congrats to Northwestern on the win against Wisconsin. You played well down the stretch, and it looks like Northwestern's going to take their side of the conference now and probably play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
Well, actually, a development just a couple hours ago, Wisconsin's game against Minnesota was canceled, which puts them below the required amount of games to be able to compete in a championship game. So that takes Wisconsin out of the running for the Big Ten West.
They've literally played 2 games. 3 games.
Yeah, they've only played 2 whole games, which means
3.
that...
3. They played Michigan, Northwestern, and Illinois. Illinois.
Yeah, 3 games. Which means that the only 2 teams left are Iowa and Purdue, both of which have 2 losses already in the conference. So it's pretty much a lock now for Northwestern.
Ohio State, Northwestern. I'm so sorry, Northwestern. You get to be the punching bag this year. But
honestly, Northwestern is better than I think many people expected, and really I think the main reason is Peyton Ramsey's an outstanding quarterback. He's significantly underrated. I liked him at Indiana, and they took Penix over him, which that looks a lot better now after what he did to the Buckeyes. But I thought Peyton Ramsey was always a great quarterback. I was interested in seeing how he'd play at Northwestern, and so far he's looked pretty good. And that defense came out of nowhere. That defense looks unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if that defense can keep playing like it did and how it did and shut down Wisconsin, and they get some offensive capability, that's gonna be a really good team. I don't think they're gonna win the playoff.
I was about to say if they have everything going right, they'll only lose by 2 scores.
Yeah.
Another team that's probably going to win their conference or their side of the conference, and that is going to be Florida. Florida's going to be a fun team. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Alabama. All I know is there is going to be a lot of points scored in that game. But I am feeling a lot less comfortable saying Florida has a chance after their game against Vanderbilt this week. I mean, they still won pretty handily, but it was a slow start, and you can't have a slow start like that against Bama. You got to get the ball rolling right away. But that's going to be a shootout for the SEC championship. But I don't see Florida losing their conference. Or their side.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Ever since Kyle Trask became the starter at Florida over Felipe Franks, I thought the Gators were on drugs. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Who even is this guy? I've never heard of him before.
And they
him in over the gunslinging Felipe Franks, and I never really liked Kyle Trask. I never thought he was anything special. Here he goes this season, putting up Heisman candidate numbers.
Little did we know he was a double gunslinger, slinging 5 touchdowns in 1 quarter or 1 half. I was like, he has 5 touchdowns in a half against Arkansas. What the heck?
I never really believed in Florida, but Trask is starting to make me buy into Gator Nation. Give me the Gator shot, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I said they would beat Georgia. I think they're a really good team. I just don't know if they're good enough to beat Bama. But I think it'll be a lot closer than I think people think. Then it's going to be a shootout, but I think Alabama will probably win that one very close. But that's going to be a fun one no matter what.
I think Bama's defense is going to definitely step up, but yeah, Florida's going to make it very close. Kyle Trask just looks unbelievable. If he keeps playing the way he is, he's going to give Bama fits defensively.
Yeah. And I still don't agree with Georgia. 2-loss Georgia being in the top 10. We'll get to why when the next part of the rankings are revealed. As well with Miami, they're a good team. They're not going to make their conference championship game because I got Clemson and Notre Dame in there, but fun team to watch. Now we go into the 11 through 15. This is where I have a lot of issues.
I'm trying to figure out Georgia lost to Florida, but who was their other loss? I don't even remember.
Alabama. Bama. They got crushed by Bama.
Right.
Now this
I
is...
think Miami...
Yeah.
I should think Miami should be above Georgia.
Oh,
I
no.
like Miami better. Georgia, I think, is still really good, and so is Miami. But I think Miami should be a little... Just above... I think it's really close between those two. Honestly, you can make an argument either way. I just think Miami gets. I think, in my opinion, I would say Miami has a slight edge.
There's one team that I think is really underranked, and they're going to be in here. But number 11, we got. This is where I start having really big issues. Number 11, we have 2-loss Oklahoma. Number 12, we have 4-1 Indiana. Number 13, we have 2-loss Iowa State. And then number 14 is 9-0 BYU. And number 15 is 3-0 Oregon. Like, okay. Here's my biggest gripe. Like, I get it's BYU. I get their only marquee win is a blowout win on the road against ranked Boise State. But at the same time, they're 9-0, blowing out practically every team they've played. Zach Wilson is a legit Heisman candidate. I don't think they deserve to be in the top 4 or even maybe in like the top 6, but I think they should be above a 2-loss Oklahoma, a 2-loss Georgia, and a 2-loss Ohio State. Like, you can make the case for Miami being above them, sure. Their 1 loss is to Clemson. They've beaten some better teams. You can make a case even for Northwestern being above them. I still don't think so, but you can make a case. I can't sit there and make a case in any universe why 2-loss Georgia, or especially 2-loss Oklahoma or Iowa State, should be above them. Like, maybe 2-loss Georgia, but Oklahoma and Iowa State should not be above BYU. They should not be above BYU. No.
Yeah, I don't get the whole Oklahoma and Iowa State bit over BYU at all. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I get Oklahoma obviously being higher up there, but Oklahoma, they looked horrible at the beginning of the season. They were absolutely terrible. Yeah, they've looked better. Okay, fine. They beat Oklahoma State, who they've dominated for like 50 plus years. So, by the way, that rivalry, that is just ugly. Bedlam. I mean, we talk about Ohio State dominating Michigan. That doesn't compare to what Oklahoma State fans are dealing with the Sooners. I mean, it's not even close. Like we're whining about the Buckeyes beating us all the time, which is rather annoying. But if you're an Oklahoma State Cowboys fan, holy cow, that's gotta be rough.
Mm-hmm.
That has gotta be so rough, losing basically every single year and never winning. That's so hard.
Yeah.
But
no.
anyways, Oklahoma in front of Indiana, and of course BYU 9-0. Honestly, for the playoff committee, all they care about is what teams have you beaten and by how much. And since BYU has played literally no one besides maybe Boise State, who isn't ranked, and blew them out on the road, they don't care what their ranking is. They're gonna stick them all the way at the bottom, and that is the very annoying thing about the playoff committee. They don't care what your record is. All they care about is what your strength of schedule is.
I mean,
and no matter if you're in a bad conference or a good conference, you're stuck.
Yeah.
So if you're BYU, you gotta schedule really, really good teams, and something like an Oregon or someone who actually is playing non-conference games, which is only in a Pac-12.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like they play joke teams. I mean, Navy's a pretty decent team usually. Troy's a decent team usually. Louisiana Tech is usually a decent team. Houston's a good team at Boise State. And the wins at Navy, 55-3. Troy, 48-7. Louisiana Tech, 45-14. At Houston, 43-26. At number 21 Boise State, 51-17. Like, that is insane. Zach Wilson has thrown for almost 3,000 yards. He's at 2,700 yards and 26 touchdowns with a QB rating of 90.2. That's insane. And they're just completely getting disrespected by the playoff committee, in my opinion. But what can you do? And then Oregon is this low just because they haven't played any game. They haven't played barely any games. Yeah. Revealing the next half of the bracket, 16 through 20, we've got Wisconsin at number 16 taking a fall after their loss to Northwestern. Texas still hanging on in the rankings at number 17. USC at 18 hanging on. North Carolina's back, 6-2, number 19 in the country. And then Coastal Carolina at 20. See, even Coastal Carolina fell down to 20. Marshall fell down to 21. Literally all of the teams that, like, were higher just all fell because they don't play quality opponents, and it's just because that's how the committee works.
Carolina, that one really kind of confuses me because they just played Appalachian State and won decently handily.
And App State's good.
Yeah, App State's a really actually good team, and obviously they'll play Liberty later this year.
That's a huge one. Yeah, and Liberty loses one game, completely nixed, done. Despite how good they've done, you lose once if you're a smaller school, you're done. I hate that. Because I would put Liberty in over some of these later teams.
Even if they had beaten NC State, I don't even know if they would have gotten in, honestly.
Yo, no, with how this is looking.
3-2 Iowa is ranked.
I was about to say we're gonna get to that. Speaking of which, let's just jump down there, I guess. Finish out the rankings. Marshall fell down to 21. Auburn sticking at 22. Oklahoma State. How is Oklahoma State still in here at 23? And then 24, probably one of the worst teams. Iowa at 3-2, and then Tulsa at 25. Iowa, who has beaten Minnesota, Michigan State, and Penn State. I know they've blown out all three of them, but those are three of the trashiest Big Ten teams there are.
Well, you look at Texas, North Carolina. Honestly, you could make a case for Auburn and Oklahoma State, and definitely Iowa. What are those teams doing in the top 25? Carolina has been horrible the last few weeks. They lost to Virginia. They had to win by like 3 or 4. Have to score 60 points to beat Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to Florida State. I mean, why is that in the top 25? What is it? Just so you can hype up Notre Dame? That all it really is for. Because now Notre Dame's number 2, North Carolina is number 19. That's the only reason that they're up there.
I mean, come on. By this logic, Maryland should be ranked. I think Maryland's better than Iowa.
Yeah, I don't get the Iowa one either. That really half of these you just look at and you're just like, what in the world?
But with Maryland that's an exciting team. There's something in the water of the Tagovailoa's home that just makes them superhumans. He's been looking really good, Tulia, if I said that right. Tulia. That's what it is. Okay. All right. So, just some of the games coming up this week. We're just going to go through a couple of the games coming up this week, and then that'll be it for the session. I think that's what we're going to do from here on out. We're going to kind of debate the rankings and then talk about the games. Overranked Iowa's number 13 Iowa State against overranked number 17 Texas. Who wins this battle of the overranked?
Major implications on the Big 12 championship.
Who cares? No, none of them are going to make the playoffs or even be close.
Well, it's pretty much obvious at this point that the Big 12 champion is not going to make it. But if Texas cannot beat Iowa State, then that pretty much locks in Iowa State for the Big 12 conference.
At 2 losses.
Iowa State would play Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship. Because Oklahoma State probably is not making it at 4-2 in the conference unless Oklahoma State won't make it unless Oklahoma decides to lose. And of course, if Texas lost too, because they've lost to both those teams.
Mm-hmm.
They need them both to lose, and then they would just play Iowa State. Because the only loss in the conference, by the way, is Oklahoma State.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's beating each other up, but I got Texas in this one, a long shot. But not a long shot, but I got Texas in this one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to go with Texas. I think they have the better talent. Iowa State always likes to pull the upset, but when they get into those games where they're supposed to be favored or people think that they maybe will win, they never win. They always disappoint. It's only when they're not even supposed to be close to winning when they actually pull off the upset.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a once in a time thing. They don't do it all the time. So I just don't see how they pull it off.
Notre Dame.
I think Texas.
Yeah. Number 2 Notre Dame at number 19 North Carolina. See, here's the thing. See, I want to pick. I think I'm going to pick Notre Dame, but I have this weird feeling in my stomach that North Carolina is just going to pull something weird out of their butts. No, potentially upset Notre Dame.
North Carolina really is a wild card. They have a couple games they didn't look prepared whatsoever, and they just looked really, really bad. And now here's their opportunity against a really 8-0 Notre Dame team, number 2 in the country, getting some stupid favor from the College Football Playoff Committee, getting themselves number 19, maybe gives them some momentum into that game. I want to pick the upset here, but last time I picked a bunch of upsets, it miserably backfired, so give me Notre Dame.
Yeah. Maryland at number 12 Indiana. See, with me here, I would not be surprised to see a Maryland upset, but I'm going to go with the safe pick and take Indiana in this one. But I would not be surprised to see Maryland pull off a sneaky one in Bloomington.
I honestly would be surprised if Maryland won this game. Michael Penix after that game against Ohio State, uh, that shocked pretty much the world. That shocked pretty much the nation, and I'd be surprised to see if Maryland fared much better defensively against the Indiana offense. So give me the Hoosiers. Won't be a blowout, but I think they'll win by a decent margin. They'll win comfortably. It won't be, like I said, won't be a blowout, but they're not gonna. It won't be like a one possession game. I think they win it comfortably.
The Iron Bowl, Alabama Auburn, always a fun game. Any chance Auburn pulls a miracle?
You know, this is what everyone says. They say like Ohio State Michigan's always a fun game. It's always a close game.
Not
but
recently.
You look at the past couple of years, and it never has been. It's going to be the same thing here for Alabama Auburn. Auburn does not look good. I don't see how they pull anywhere close to Bama, especially on the road. Give me the Crimson Tide as they roll over Auburn in the Iron Bowl.
Auburn's been very close with Alabama these past couple of years. I mean, Auburn won last year, and then obviously not that long ago. It feels like so long ago, but really not that long ago was the whole kick six. But always a fun game. Not this year. Auburn's looked pretty bad. Alabama looks like they're on a mission. Give me Alabama. Pitt at Clemson. Do we have a Chris Blewett situation? Pittsburgh pulling off the upset in Death Valley? Jury for me says no. No.
Honestly, Pitt's a not bad team. They're not a bad team, but they're going to have Trevor Lawrence back. Order will be restored. Clemson's going to win.
Fair enough. All right. So number 8 Northwestern at Michigan State. It's always a fun game being at Michigan State, but with no fans and Rocky Lombardi looking absolutely terrible. Give me the Wildcats.
Sorry, Michigan State sucks. Their only wins against Michigan,
Who also
by the way,
sucks.
also sucks.
We beat Rutgers in triple overtime.
And we finally
pulled Joe Milton.
Pulled our heads out of our butts and put in McNamara, who guided us to the win pretty much when Joe Milton was looking like a bum.
See, Joe Milton just doesn't have the chip on his shoulder or the fire in him. He just goes out there. He's like, all right, time to do my job. Let's go. And Cade McNamara came out. He's like, come on, guys. Like, he dove into the end zone. He got up and he was like pumping his arms. He's like, let's go. That was fun. But Northwestern. Colorado at USC. USC has had a couple close games. Is Colorado the one who finally gets the upset?
But for Northwestern Michigan State, I got Northwestern.
Oh, I figured you picked that.
Yeah, you probably did. But USC and Colorado, I don't know a whole lot about Colorado, but I did watch USC play against Utah, and they looked all over the place. They had moments where they looked like a really good team. They had moments when they looked really, really bad. It depends what USC team you get against Colorado. They pulled off both close games against the Arizona teams where they had to win the last basically minutes.
Arizona State, they were down 2 possessions with 4 minutes left. They had to get a touchdown, onside kick, and another touchdown to tie it or to win it. And
they, like you said, they pulled it off. But they play undefeated Colorado. What even is their wins? I know nothing about this.
Colorado's 2-0, 35-32 win against Stanford, and 48-42 win against UCLA. I think Colorado is a good team. Colorado is always a pretty decent team, but the thing is, they still got a new head coach because obviously Mel Tucker left for Michigan State, kind of tore out all the hearts of the Buffaloes. I do have a friend who goes to Colorado University. That being said, I'm still going, I think, with USC in this one in a close one.
With the Trojans at home, I'll give the Trojans a little bit more of a margin. They have liked winning closer games, but I'll still go with a 10-point win, I'll say, for the Trojans.
It'll be a fun one to watch, though. It's going to be a fun Pac-12 game. We're going to have next Georgia at South Carolina. I'm going to make a bold statement here. South Carolina's looked terrible, but honestly, I think they pull a sneaky upset again against Georgia. I don't think Georgia's looked that good. Their defense is good, but Stetson Bennett hasn't looked good in the past couple weeks. I think if South Carolina can get just enough momentum going, they could pull off the upset. So give me South Carolina in this one.
Honestly, for Georgia, I think they have found their quarterback. JT Daniels came in, looked unbelievable. Transfer from USC, if you don't know who he is, really high recruit towards ACL, and never really returned. And Keldon Slavis took over in USC. So he transferred over to Georgia. They put him in, and he looked great. So I'm really curious to see how he plays in this game against South Carolina, but I think he tears them apart. Interim head coach for South Carolina. They have looked really, really bad. So I got the Bulldogs in the wipeout.
The last game, number 11 Oklahoma at West Virginia. Give me the Mountaineers.
Not like it's going to make much difference for Oklahoma, but I think they win the close one in the shootout against West Virginia.
Give me the Mountaineers in an upset at home. They want to beat Oklahoma. I just might just
me move here, going a couple upsets.
Might just be me being salty that they're ranked above BYU for some weird reason. But that being said, that's gonna be our NFL segment. So thank you all so much for watching, and tomorrow you guys will get to see the NFL section. Or I said NFL twice. This was our NCAA football. King K. Rool is gonna be fighting King K. Rool. This is our NCAA football section. We're going to be doing some NFL tomorrow, so hope you all tune in and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace out.